We are going to start seated. So finding a nice comfy seat. I'll kick that block and then we'll just settle in. Let your body just soften here. Maybe let the eyes close. Feel the way you're respirating. High in the Himalayan mountains, there's a little shanty-like building, kind of tucked away, nearly completely camouflaged. But it's there, at least for now. It's old, it's decrepit. Inside, there's a transition happening, something new. The building itself is the furthest thing from new, but the old head of the ashram has run out of time. And so a new head has just taken over. And she is a very, very well respected and very powerful yogi. Give ourselves just 30 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll let the eyes open if they are closed. And let's transition to hands and knees tabletop. So we're going to build our foundation here. And like we have been doing, we're going to feel a little pressure, like you're trying to push away the mat, the earth from you. And then let's just see how it feels to take the left hand and point the fingertips out towards the edge of the mat. And if that's accessible for the wrist, let's take the left hand and see if we can point the left fingertips back towards the left knee. And as you're doing this, think about what's going on in the fingers. Think about splaying those left fingers out as much as you can so that we have as much strength as we can in that left hand, even though we have the wrist rotated into an awkward position. And then let's bring that left hand back to a traditional setup. We'll curl our toes, lift our seat, and just roll our way back into down dog. So you're coming back into down dog here. Pay attention to any asymmetry in the left and right wrist. Notice if there's a little bit less desire to be fully engaged in that left hand, might be a little bit fatigued. And instead of shifting your weight laterally, think about pushing back into the hips. Like you're trying to drive the weight all the way into the hips so that the hands are barely doing anything at all. So that that left hand, while it's planted, it's barely holding any weight. And then we'll come back down to hands and knees tabletop. And we're going to do the same thing to the second side. So the right fingers are going to face out towards the right edge of the mat first. We're just noticing how the body responds to this. And if we have more room, and only if we have more room, we'll bring those right fingertips and point them back towards the right knee. Again, we want to splay the fingers out wide. So the goal is that we have engagement in that hand, that we can feel the musculature of the forearm there really active and also expansive. Pretty infrequent that we get into forearm expansiveness, but it's a nice thing to do. And then when you feel balance left to right, let's bring that right hand back to neutral. And we'll curl our toes, lift our seat, and roll our way back into down dog. And once again, we're just trying to get the weight into the hips so that we feel the space here. We're light in the hands, we're as soft as we can be. And the legs are holding the bulk of the work. And then let's come down to hands and knees, tabletop. As you come down to hands and knees, tabletop, see if it's possible to keep the right hand engaged and flip the left hand. So now that we're on the top of the left hand. Now, for some of us, when we get into this position, the wrist strength just isn't there in a way where we can support the body. And if that's the case, keep that right hand energizing down a little bit extra. You can pressurize that right hand so that the shoulder girdle activates and take weight off of the left hand, right? The more we engage that right hand, the more we push down, the less weight we're going to be carrying in that left hand. We want to have the fingers splayed out wide. We want to be active in the hands. And again, we're feeling that forearm expansiveness. And when it feels appropriate, let's return the left hand to a more traditional position. Make sure you get the fingers splayed out wide. And then before we roll back here, push into the fingertips so you really feel that activation. And let's curl our toes, lift our seat, and find down dog. And then let's come back down to hands and knees, tabletop. And we'll flip the right hand. And same thing. We want the fingers splayed out wide. We want to make sure that we're capable of holding the weight there. The more you pressurize the left hand, the more lift we get here, or the more lift we get across the shoulder girdle, and the less weight we are carrying in that right hand. We want to be active and engaged so the forearm really does feel what we're doing. We want to be able to respirate naturally. And then when you feel balance left to right, we're going to flip that right hand. Once again, think about the fingertips engaging into the mat so that we have activation. And then let's curl our toes, lift our seat, and let the weight shift back into down dog. And we'll come down to hands and knees, tabletop, flip the tops of the feet, and sink our way into child's pose. As you come into child's pose here, once again, re engage that idea of how soft we can get, how much ease we can offer. Think about those cycles of respiration and how they continue to offer ease. We'll give ourselves about 15 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, let's pull ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop. As we come into hands and knees tabletop, ideally we have a little bit more space and awareness in our forearms. Let's take the hands out like an extra inch or two so they're a little bit wider than normal. So we set our shoulder girdle and it's a little bit wider and we have a bigger base. And then exhale out, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone around the spine. Inhale in, drop the belly, lift the chin, lift the tailbone. Exhale out, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone around the spine, arch into the back. And inhale, drop the belly, lift the tailbone, lift the chin. Let's just work through this at our own rate, at our own pace, exploring the articulation of the spine here, working to get into full flexion, working to get into full extension, trying to feel those end ranges, and at the same time, trying to keep the base width of our shoulder girdle and the strength of our hands, just allowing for a little bit deeper exploration of these end ranges of motion. Let's do 2 more movements in either direction. And then when it feels appropriate for you, we come back to neutral. No rush to get here, right? But when we do, we get back to neutral. We're going to curl our toes, lift our seat, and roll our way into down dog. Let's find our way to the front of the mat. We'll inhale into half lift and exhale back into fold. Let your head drop into this fold. Really feel your body soften as deeply as possible into this fold. When it feels appropriate for you, draw your awareness to your sacrum. Let's roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. We'll come all the way up into mountain. Split the toes out here. Bring the hands together, heart center. Feel the weight in the toe mounds and heels. And then just slowly slide your left foot straight back into lunge. And as you get back into lunge, we're driving the weight back and then sink forward without bending that back knee. So we're not losing the strength of the back leg. We're maintaining the strength of the back leg and shifting the torso forward and holding that space and that strength. And let's sweep the arms up and overhead just to briefly touch full crescent. And then we'll drop the hands and step to the front of the mat. Oh, and then we'll do the same thing to the second side. Right foot slides straight back. Again, the weight's coming back first. We're loading that back leg. Then we're going to shift our torso forward. So we look to get the tibia and fibia vertical. We feel the strength in the back leg. We're feeling that anterior sheath of musculature expanding. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll sweep the arms, fully express crescent, and then just drop the hands to step to the front of the mat. Sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold, coming all the way into our fold and inhaling into half lift. Get a long, expansive back here. And then we'll exhale back into fold. Plant your hands and walk to down dog. And we'll come down to hands and knees, tabletop. We're going to sweep the legs through and extend our legs out into staff. Just the staff check in first. We're going to think about getting our spine as vertical as we have access to. And then let's real briefly just find our way forward into a fold. Relax completely into your fold this cycle. And then we'll return to staff and we're going to lower ourselves onto our back. So we come onto our spine here. Let's bring our knees into a bent position. And then we are going to lift the feet so the bottoms of the feet can point towards the space in front of us. Roughly 90-degree bend of the knees, and the bottoms of the feet are pointing straight forward, toes roughly straight up. Now we're just going to hold this for a moment. Just feel where in the hips, where in the quads, where in the hamstrings, where in the calves, where in the ankles, where are you feeling sensation in the legs? Think about what's going on in the lumbar spine. We want enough core engagement that we're staying neutral in the lumbar spine. I'm just going to breathe here. Really want to ideally find 90-degree bend in the knees. And then when it feels appropriate, release your feet down to the mat. Push down into the toe mounds and heels. Lift your belt line up into a little bridge. Aim for neutral and turn the palms up towards the ceiling or sky. And let's bring the tailbone back down to the mat. Let the knees fall to one side or the other, whatever side feels most appropriate for you. And we'll press ourselves up through tabletop. So we're reestablishing our tabletop position. Think about that foundation. Take the hands that 1 inch or 2 inches wider, just a little wider than your traditional base would be. And then really feel the whole pec major, pec minor, shoulder structure. And push down like you're lifting your torso away and use that to help slide your left foot forward and into a little grounded lunge. Now we're going to bring our hands to heart center and then bring our right tricep onto our left thigh. So we have a little grounded lunge with a nice twist here. Now you have a little bit more stability. We have more points of the body contacting the ground. We have that whole back leg as an anchor point. Think about what rotation is available to you here. About where you want your gaze to be. Maybe it's straight down at the floor, maybe it's at your hands, maybe it's up towards the ceiling, but where does the gaze benefit you the most? And then we'll bring our hands back down to the mat and step our left foot back to the tabletop. Curl your toes, lift your seat, and find down dog. Get your weight all the way back into the hips. And then let's come down to hands and knees tabletop. Check and ensure that you still have that extra bit of width. Push the mat away from you, like you're getting really strong in the shoulder girdle, and use that to slide your right foot forward and into lunge. We're going to bring our hands to heart center and then left tricep to right thigh. We have this rotation here. We have more anchoring, so maybe we can get a little more depth into our rotation. Don't have to be worried as much about losing our balance here because we have some big, solid anchor pieces. Let me just find space here, find room here. Eventually, when you feel balanced, we'll bring the hands back down to the mat. And we'll slide our right foot back into tabletop. Curl your toes, lift your seat, and roll back into down dog. Get the weight back into the hips. And then eventually we'll walk our way to the front of the mat. Inhaling into half lift. And exhaling back into fold. Let your body completely relax into your fold. Let your head go. Feel the anterior hip crease and think about how that can expand the depth of this fold. And then when it feels appropriate for you, let's drift our awareness to our sacrum. We'll roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. We'll eventually find our way to mountain. And in this mountain, we're going to take a little unique setup here. So the right foot is going to slide halfway back. Halfway maybe is the wrong distance. Think about as much depth as you can offer yourself and still keep both feet grounded. So we want to be 100% grounded in both feet. Then the hands are at heart center, and we're going to bend the left knee. So now we're in like a tiny lunge. And instead of bringing the right tricep down to the left thigh, we're just going to rotate almost like we're in a chair rotation. And you can bring the torso out so that you're in front of that left leg. But what you're likely going to notice is that the left leg gets super loaded, that we're putting a ton of energy down that left leg. And we're just feeling that in the hip capsule. And then we'll rise back up and straighten out both legs. And we're going to step the right foot forward. And now you may feel the different approximation of the joint capsule in the hips. Very possible that we have set this femoral head a little bit deeper. We may not have been there long enough for you to really get that change. Just kind of feel how the legs feel in comparison to one another. And then we're going to do the same thing to the second side. The left foot's going to slide back. Again, we're stepping back half-ish, just enough that you can get both feet grounded, hands at heart center. And then we'll bend that right knee. And then we're going to start the rotation. Now, you don't have to take the torso forward, but if you do choose to take that torso forward, what you're going to find is the elbow is in front of the knee position, and we load the heck out of that right leg. So we can do this more upright with just more lumbar rotation. Option to add the depth of torso forward here. When you feel balance left to right, no rush to make that true. We'll rise back up, straighten the legs, and step the left foot forward. And now we have an opportunity to sense new sensation around the hips. Now keep the focus around the hips, hands at heart center. We sink the seat back to chair. Tibia and fibia stay vertical. We have the tilt in the femurs. And then the hip hinge keeps the lumbar neutral. Notice where the sensations are appearing here. Are we feeling any of this anterior tibialis musculature? Are you feeling any of that anterior quad musculature? Is it all in the glutes? We'll rise back up to mountain, sweep the arms up and overhead, and then exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Long and expansive spinal column. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands and we'll walk our way to down dog. Come down to hands and knees, tabletop. And we'll sink our seat back into child's pose. And we'll land here. So a new head of this ashram was not the only new thing that was going on. This was a very small community, but there was a new member. a new member who had just started and who had never met the old head of the ashram. The only leader he knew was this woman who was running things now. And she was actually the one who took him on the tour of this very old, very decrepit building when he got there. And she showed him into this wing of this ashram that was held up by this ancient rotting pillar. And she showed him into this other wing that was held together by this ancient rotting wall. And she told him what his tasks were going to be: cleaning, cleaning, and more cleaning. We will give ourselves just about 15 more seconds here. And when it feels appropriate for you, let's pull ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop. And we'll extend our legs out in front of us for staff. Feel the verticality of staff first. Just an opportunity to feel if the body has given you any capacity for vertical or for still fight. And then we'll find our way into a forward fold. We'll be here a little bit longer than we were the first time. This will be a little bit more depth to explore. Previous version was just kind of a check in. Last 30 seconds here. When it feels appropriate, we'll lift the torso back to vertical and then lower ourselves onto our spine. We're going to do the same thing with the legs, but before you do that, just note what's going on in the body. We're a little bit longer in forward fold. That means the posterior chain had a little bit more pull on it. It means the posterior chain is a little bit more fatigue in it. So we want to get back to relaxed neutral. When you feel like you're ready for relaxed neutral, we're going to bring those feet back to point towards the front of the room. So roughly 90-degree bend of the knee. Arms are going to come out towards cactus here. They could also be a T, but cactus is probably the easier position. And then with an exhale, we're just going to extend the left leg down the mat. And with an inhale, we'll bring that left leg back. And then we'll do the same thing on the right side. Exhale, extend. And inhale, retract. And let's just alternate with our respiration cycles. The key piece, the easiest piece to kind of get lost in this, besides the fact that we're trying to sync our breath and our movement, is returning to 90 degrees. It's very easy to let the feet come down. It's very easy to start to sink forward. Just think about trying to keep this nice 90-degree bend as we move. As you move, you'll also likely notice that the posterior chain's fatigue starts to kick in, right? We start to feel that lumbar spine wanting to arch into extension. See if you can use more core squeeze to combat that, even if that means you really end up focusing on the abdominal engagement. And we'll give ourselves one more movement to each side. And when you're complete, no rush to make that true. Feet come down to the mat. Feel the lumbar spine and what's going on around the sacrum and the hip girdle. Can we get a relaxed, like blossoming of expansion there? Can everything just be at ease there? And then we'll push down into the toe mounds and heels and bring our belt line up into a little bridge. And we'll release the tailbone back down to the mat. Let the knees fall to one side or the other, whatever side feels most ideal for you. And we'll press ourselves up into tabletop. So as we come into tabletop, we're going to split those fingers out. Take the hands that 1 inch, maybe 2 inches wider. We create that width. Really think about the strength of that width as you push the mat away from you. And we'll step the left foot in between the hands. We're going to take the right elbow or right tricep to the left thigh, and we'll stack the left hand on top of that. Now you can stay right here. This is where we've been before. You can work into some rotation. I'm going to offer the right toes curling and pushing back into that right leg to just elevate yourself into a nice little traditional lunge with a twist. But you don't have to raise that back leg. So if that doesn't feel right for you, just stay right where we were. And then we'll ground that right knee and bring the hands back to heart center, sweep the arms up, and find this grounded crescent. Same thing. You can stay right here. Or if it feels accessible to you, you can push into that right foot and lift yourself up into a nice little elevated lunge, crescent lunge. Again, does not have to happen, only happens if it's advantageous. And then we'll drop the hands down to the mat and we'll step into a down dog. So if we have the knees grounded, we're just going to bring the leg back and then curl ourselves up. If we have the legs elevated, we'll just step straight back and find down dog. We'll breathe into this. We'll get the weight back into the hips. We'll feel lightness in the hands. We'll keep our body's ability to breathe. And then eventually, we're going to come down to hands and knees tabletop. As you get into your tabletop, check the hand positioning. Make sure you have that little bit of extra width. We want that width as we push down into the mat, as we drive energetically away from us and step that right foot forward. Once you get grounded here, once you feel base grounded, let's bring our left elbow or tricep to the right thigh. We'll stack the right hand on top of the left. And we can stay right here. This is where we were the first time. This may be a comfortable place. If you want to push a little further, we can press that left toe mound into the mat and lift the back leg. And we create this elevation. We create a more traditional lunge with rotation. We feel the strength in the back leg, not just the front leg. We keep energizing into that left heel. And then we can bring our left knee down. We bring our hands to heart center and experience crescent. Now, same thing. Stay here, or you can lift to a more traditional version of crescent. Wherever we end up, we're just looking for some space and feeling this in the body. Toes are splayed out on that front foot. When it feels appropriate for you, hands come down to the mat. And we'll step back into down dog. We'll work our way into down dog from whichever version of the shape we're in. And let's walk to the front of the mat. We'll inhale into half lift. And exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. We'll roll or sweep our way up into mountain. Hands come together, heart center. Fingers play wide. Big solid base here. Let's take our feet out to the width we've been going with our shoulders. So this is probably 2 to 4 inches wider than we'd normally have our feet, maybe even 6 inches. So it's a pretty nice big step wide. And we're going to keep our hands at heart center and then sink the seat back into chair. Now check what's going on with your feet. We want those running straight out like railroad tracks, parallel edges of the feet on parallel edges of the mat. And we have nice width here. Check on what's going with the knees. We want to keep the knees in line here so that we're opening the hips, not pushing the knees out or not pushing the knees in. We're really expanding at that sacral girdle. Almost a similar sensation to what we got when we relaxed when we came out of our abdominal work. And then we'll rise back up and sweep the arms up and overhead. Feet stay wide as you exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk back into a wider version of down dog. Stay wide in the sacrum. Think about width across the hips here. And we'll come down to hands and knees tabletop. And here, it's going to be what's best for your knees. So if keeping the knees wide, if keeping the hips wide doesn't work for child's pose, we are sinking back into child's pose, then bring them back into a more traditional alignment. Really listen to what the knees have available for you here. We don't want to push the knees into a place where they're not comfortable. And so this new member of this ashram, he gets his cleaning duties. He goes to cleaning every day. But man, is he dumbfounded that this building is standing. Every time he's near the crumbling wall or the crumbling pillar that seemed to be holding this whole thing up, he's terrified. But one day he realizes that the head of the ashram, this very powerful yogic woman, every time he sees her, she's near one of these two structures. She's deep in a meditative state. And he realizes that she must be strengthening these walls. Her yogic power must be so strong that she herself is keeping this building standing. And then he's amazed. And then every time he sees her, it's no longer fear inside the building, it's comfort that he is around such a powerful teacher. When it feels appropriate for you, as it feels appropriate for you, let's pull ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop. We'll extend our legs straight out in front of us. We'll find staff. And for the last time, we're going to find our way into forward fold. Feeling the depth of our forward fold. Relaxing into that forward fold. Last 60 seconds here. Last 5 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate for you, let's bring ourselves back up into vertical. And we're going to lower ourselves onto our back. We feel softness of neutrality. And we appreciate how the lumbar sits neutral against the mat. Really important that we appreciate that neutrality. And then when it feels appropriate, let's bring the knees to their 90-degree bend, feet point towards the front of the room, arms come out towards cactus or T. And exhale, right leg extends. Inhale, retracts. Exhale, left leg extends. Inhale, retracts. And we're just going to work with our respiration. Exhale, extends the leg. Inhale, retracts. If you feel like you need more, you can do this double legged in unison. That being said, it's very easy to start losing the shape again, right? Especially when we're doubling, we get that bow in the back. The entirety of the shape gets disoriented. So really think about what the primary beneficial movements are going to be for you and find your way into those. Maybe one more to each leg or two more total if you're doing both. And eventually we'll let the feet come down on the mat. Bottoms of the feet come together and the knees fall out wide. So as the days go by, as the weeks go by, the new member of this ashram comes to appreciate the new leader of this ashram more and more. Every time he sees her powering up this building, he is grateful. Not only that she's keeping the building up, but that her yogic powers are so intense that they can keep the building up. And therefore, that he is learning from such a true master. Give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate, let's bring our knees back to neutral. Let the sacrum relax. And then let's add a little dynamic sway. Exploration of rotation. Really feeling your body's ability to rotate. Noting if there are sticky points, if there are catchy points, if there are hiccups, hinges. And if there are, seeing what you can do to smooth that out. And if there's not, just flowing smoothly from side to side. Maybe one more movement in each direction before we come back to a sense of stillness. And in that stillness, asking ourselves, if there's anything that you want, if there's anything that you need, if there's anything that you could benefit from prior to Shavasana. And if there is, offering that to ourselves now. And if you have everything that you want, if you have everything that you could possibly need, drifting your way into a sense of stillness, a space of stillness where you can appreciate Shavasana. One night, high up in the Himalayan hills, the wind starts whipping and it starts rolling down towards this ashram, this wall of wind. As the wind starts to push up against the building, the newest member of the ashram sees that the head of this ashram is seated, strengthening everything with her own powers. And almost as the thought of comfort washes over him, there's a crack and then a crashing as the ashram blows down in the wind. Just finding your full stillness here. as everything came crashing down. The head of this ashram sat there in stillness with the same pleasant look upon her face, eyes closed. And the next morning, when the sun came up and everyone saw the devastation, and this woman saw her ashram was lost, everything in it was gone. She sat down, she crossed her legs, she closed her eyes, and a look of contentment crept across her face. And in seeing this new member of the ashram was enraged. We'll start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes. He couldn't believe he was duped by this woman. All this time, he thought she was such a powerful yogi that she was keeping this building standing. But she couldn't even prevent the building falling over in the wind. Moving into your wrists and your ankles. And he turned to one of the other members of the ashram that he kind of grown a relationship with. And he pointed this out. He asked, do you feel like you've been duped? Moving into your elbows and your knees. And the other person looked back very confused, and he pointed at her and he said, look at her. Her face hasn't even changed. She's lost everything. She didn't save us. She didn't save this. Shoulders, hips, neck, head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, your whole body's going to move, and you're going to utilize that movement to transition your way up into a seat. And in your seated space, spine gets tall, breath gets fluid, eyes can close. And in response, he was told, the building was just a building. The stuff was just stuff. It's all gone. She's lost it. She'll have to start over. But look at her there. In perfect bliss, in perfect contentment. With our next inhale, we'll bring our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself that you do not have to handle the entire world? You just have to be able to handle yourself and see how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this evening's practice and for being you. Namaste.